Now to the main event of the evening as we welcome new members into the Business Hall of Fame. It is my pleasure to call up to the microphone to introduce our first inductee of the evening, Dr. William Foege. Dr. Foege is a senior fellow in the Global Health Program of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He has served in a variety of executive positions at the Carter Center and is a senior investigator in child development at the Task Force for Child Survival and Development, as well as Presidential Distinguished Professor of International Health in the Rollins School of Public Health. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Bill Foege.
Thank you. This is, of course, a great honor for Helene, but I also feel this has made a better person out of me because she has, over the years, introduced me many times. And so when I was asked if I would introduce her, I said yes immediately, but I'm almost embarrassed to tell you that the word that went through my mind was revenge. She once introduced me, and as she went through where I had gone to school, the degrees, the years, and so forth, she suddenly stopped. And she said, "This may be all true, but I couldn't verify it." And another time, as I recall, she read what she said were accomplishments in my CV, and she said, "The secret to accomplishments is to have a great writer." And yet another time, she accused me of confusing a clear conscience with a fuzzy memory. But the better person in me came to the fore, and I said, I am not out for retribution. After all, she was younger in those days. She was less mature, and it is time to close the book on 2013. Genius has been described as the ability to see one's field whole. And if you saw how big her field is and know that she sees it whole, you would know what a profound statement that is. She is as comfortable at a dinner in Atlanta as she is in a hut in Zambia or briefing Nelson Mandela. She's as comfortable talking to thousands of people at an international conference as to hundreds of interested people in Chautauqua, New York at their summer program, or dozens of women in India. She has a vision that is not based on her own career development. And if you think of her leaving CDC as head of AIDS in order to go with the Gates Foundation to see if she could advise them, she went with no promises whatsoever and advised them on what they could do with AIDS, and they became involved. She then came back to Atlanta and increased her field again as she went to care, because now she has to worry about how do you improve health, how do you improve nutrition, how do you improve education, how do you improve economics, how do you provide security for individuals and families that are at the very edge of society. And she does this by combining three things: science, leadership, and the third thing, which I think is very important for this honor tonight, the difference between a body of science actually changing what happens to people comes down to management, the very core of a business college. And so she brings together an understanding of science, leadership, and management. Richard Feynman has said, the power of science is not in its being, it's in its execution, its application. And so she applies science through management to change what happens to people. Her objective is to rewrite history before it happens. The book, Cutting for Stone, has an arresting sentence that says, home is not where you're from. Home is where you're needed. And for Helene, home is the developing world. Could we have the video, please?
I saw glimmers of greatness early on with Helene. We've been friends for over 40 years now. As a child, Helene was special and different. She always had a magnetic personality.
We always knew that Helene was going to go far and do well. There's no question about that. We were all expected to be self-sufficient. We were expected to get our degree and to use our degree, but to use our degree for the good of others. You look at her in high school, in college, in medical school, graduate school, and in her career, it is all about service. It's all about giving back to people.
I met Helene Gayle in 1985 when she was at the Centers for Disease Control. Fundamentally, she's a person of great energy, tremendous vision, intellect, and a great communicator, and tremendous compassion as well.
I first met Helene Gayle when she came to CDC in the 1980s, and then watched over the years as she developed expertise in global health and in AIDS. When Helene came to the Gates Foundation, it was a very small organization. She came from a large AIDS program at CDC with $1 billion budget and hundreds of employees under her to a place that was just starting work in AIDS. But she was able to influence Bill and Melinda Gates, and I think that they've made such a difference in the problem of HIV/AIDS around the world that it turned out to be a very good move for her.
I had an opportunity to work very closely with Helene when I was director of the CDC, and I know that she sometimes refers to me as her mentor. I think we learned a lot from each other. I got a chance to interact with her and to see her interact with public health leaders throughout the world. And I think from that time on, I've been very impressed with her as probably one of the world's most trusted public health leaders.
Helene is this great combination of down-to-earth, plus passion, plus intellect, and all the attributes of leadership that is needed in this time when we're looking for really authentic leaders. When Helene arrived at the Gates Foundation, we were still in the very early stages. So I would say she was in many ways the founding leader of our HIV/AIDS strategy, of our women and reproductive health strategies, of our actual approach to leadership.
I'm very proud of Helene Gayle. We knew her when she was here with the Center for Disease Control, and she had a tremendous breadth of experience as a global physician. And then she went with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and that gave her another breadth of experience. And so when she came back here to help us lead CARE, she was a refined and polished diamond. Very proud of her, and we're very glad to see that CARE is doing so well.
I think having someone like her in the position she's in really is a plus for everyone, for CARE, for the organization, for the countries in which they are working, and for us as Americans.
Dr. Gayle is a person who can give me confidential advice. I value her for taking the time to counsel me. Certainly early in my administration, she has been that source of advice and counsel, and she continues to be that for me today. CARE's work under Dr. Gayle is changing the world.
Helene is my guide. Helene is a mentor to the One organization. I cannot imagine our organization being where it is without her guidance. Helene, you are my queen, and thank you.
Almost anyone would say if they had the opportunity to save a life, to dramatically improve a life, that would be a life well lived. Well, Helene has had that opportunity and seized that opportunity 100-fold, 1,000-fold, 1,000,000-fold through her work for improving health for women and children around the world. for her work in HIV/AIDS challenges. I think that the dividends are still being paid for Helene's early investments. There are people living, there are lives that are enhanced, there are young women going to school, turning into leaders in society, and that many of Helene's greatest accomplishments are just coming to fruition today. And I can only imagine what else she'll be able to accomplish in the years ahead.
What a great tribute, Dr. Helene Gayle.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. It is pretty overwhelming to see one's life flashed in front of your face like that. It's such an honor, and I just feel so privileged to have had the kind of life that has allowed me to do the things that make a difference in people's lives. So thank you, and thank you all for being here and for this incredible honor. I want to start by saying thanks to Georgia State for what is really such an incredible honor, and to my dear friend and colleague Mark Becker, the president of GSU, and to Richard Phillips, the dean of the Robinson College, and Eric Joyner, who is, where's Eric? Eric, the chair of the Board of Advisors, and to our MC Scott Slade. Thank you for recognizing me in this very extraordinary way. I also want to recognize our mayor, Kasim Reed. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me and Muhtar this evening. It means so much. And as everybody has said, you are clearly one of the nation's greatest mayors for one of the greatest cities in the nation. So. And to Bill Foege, who I was going to say some nice things about, but then I changed my mind. But Bill really is one of my greatest heroes. He has personally contributed, I think, to saving more lives in this world than anybody else that I can think of. From his leadership on eradicating smallpox to leading CDC's efforts to prevent illness and disease, not only here in this country, but around the world, and to making health a cornerstone for the Carter Center and then for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I think it's true that everywhere that we have seen major advances in saving lives, Bill has had a hand in that. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I also want to thank Dr. Stephen Keith, who is here, my partner, for all of his support as my friend for many, many decades, and more recently in a more personal way. So thank you, Stephen, for all your support. And I really accept this honor on behalf of the 10,000 staff around the world that work for CARE, who every day in so many ways do such extraordinary work to really realize our mission of ending extreme poverty, something that I think is a realistic goal in our lifetime. And so on behalf of my CARE colleagues who are here, thank you for all the work that you do and the honor that I have of representing what is, I think, one of the world's most incredible organizations. Tonight, though, I want to dedicate this honor to my father, Jacob Gayle, who would have been immensely proud to see me inducted into the Business Hall of Fame at Georgia State. My father was a small business owner. He started a barber and beauty supply store in our hometown of Buffalo, New York, in the heart of the African American community. At that time, there weren't that many stores that catered to the needs of African Americans, our hair, and the beauty trade in our community. He saw his business as a way of supporting his family, but more importantly, he saw his business as a way of providing a service to the community. Everyone knew that they could count on Mr. Gayle. They knew that he was going to be fair, honest, and generous in the way he did business. His store was where my 4 siblings and I got our first job. It's where we all worked until we went to college, and it's what made it possible for all of us to go to college and then beyond. It's also where we learned the value of hard work, integrity, and honesty. It's where we learned to relate to a wide and diverse range of people and to be humble and show compassion. It's where we learned the value of community. When I started winning academic awards and being recognized for leadership skills, my father encouraged me. He said I should aim high academically, but also he wanted to make sure that I used my talent to make a difference in the world. He said be a doctor or a lawyer because that's what he saw as the height of professional achievement. But he also saw it as a way of giving back to the community. My father died a month before I graduated from medical school, but he lived long enough to know that I was headed in a direction to be able to give back and make a difference in the world. He would have been proud to have seen the years since. CDC, Gates Foundation, CARE. He would have been proud to know that at my work at CARE, that I've worked to bring a closer partnership between our work to create social value and the work of business to create economic value. The two are, after all, inextricably linked. It's why I'm so proud to be honored along with Muhtar Kent, a man who is deeply committed to the belief that business should be front and center, not only in creating a prosperous world, but also in creating an equitable, fair, and just world. I was honored to be asked to be a partner with him and the board and the staff of Coca-Cola to do exactly that. Muhtar, I am constantly inspired by your example. So again, I just want to say thank you to the Robinson College and to GSU, and thank you for this tremendous honor. I know my father and my mother are smiling tonight. Thank you.